Concept Art Studio Series Megatron is a very interesting figure. He can turn into a tank as well as a jet.
Godspeed, Spider-Man.
And apparently he has a secret hidden G1 style blaster mode. We'll be taking a look at the figure, some of the history behind it, as well as that supposed hidden G1 blaster mode. Is it an actual thing? Now this figure attacked my wallet. I'm not really sure if it's worth the price either. I definitely took some physical damage when buying this, especially since I bought it alongside Shockwave at my local Target. These were the only two there, so I immediately had to grab them. Subscribe so you don't miss out on the Shockwave review. I feel really iffy spending $55 on this guy. So the thing is, he doesn't really come with any accessories really, which is kind of a bummer. The robot mode looks really cool, and I'm really glad we do have a Megatron figure to go along with the Bumblebee movie Decepticons. He definitely has a G1 resemblance to him, but a bit more modernized. He looks really intricate, but still has a bit of the G1 boxiness to him, and he has a major departure from his looks from the Bayverse movies. He definitely has a menacing look to him and a lot of nice detail. I feel like the longer I look at him, the more bits of detail I'd start to notice. He's primarily a silver and gray color, and it's patterned and broken up in ways to where he doesn't look like just one big blob of gray. There's also some nice maroon paint on him as well. The plastic quality on this guy is decent, but nothing amazing. I can feel sort of a slight bit of cheapness when holding this figure, mainly in the legs. He has a fairly decent size to him, so that's good. So here's some history on the figure. We all know this is a concept art figure that didn't appear in the movie. One of the Hasbro designers, Sam Smith, found the CAD files for Megatron that ended up being unused in the Bumblebee movie. You can see he has some ice on him because there was going to be a scene of him being frozen in ice to connect to the 2007 movie. I'll talk more about how this figure came to be later in the video. Now this figure canonically is meant to pair with the Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime. However, I prefer to have him face off against the Rise of the Beast Studio Series Optimus Prime because in my eyes this robot mode is much better.
One shall stand, one shall fall. Why throw away your life so recklessly? That's a question you should ask yourself, Megatron.
Now let's take a closer look at the figure. The head sculpt does resemble that G1 design, except it's way more mechanical and has a lot more detail to it, especially in the face. There's a lot going on here, and honestly, I feel like in this area, there's a bit too much going on. I do really like the red eyes. They stick out a lot, making him look extra evil. The shoulders look really nice and boxy. However, there is quite a bit of mechanical nature going on throughout here that really helps accentuate the figure. Some maroon color paint on the arms. And further down that, we have the rest of the arms with a 5mm port over here. There's also one on this side for his fusion cannon, which I will talk about this later. There is some really nice mechanical work going on all throughout the figure over here and even from the back. What's really cool about the hands is that in addition to being sculpted really well, this top finger is individually articulated and has two hinge joints, as you can see. The rest of these three fingers are connected, but they also have hinge joints over here as well as over here. So that is some nice extra bit of articulation this figure has. This is great to see on a figure that costs this much. At least the money is going somewhere. Coming up to the chest once again, I'm loving that silver, and we do get some nice panel working throughout it, as well as some tiny rivets on the figure as well. This really helps bring the figure to life, and one interesting thing that I noticed is that the Decepticon insignia appears to be slightly tilted. Is that just me? Am I just crazy, or is anyone else seeing that too? But the actual thing that I noticed, it's actually a black color rather than the classic purple that the Decepticon insignia usually is. Would have been nice to have that be purple so it could stand out a bit more. Whoa, my cat did something. What? Underneath that though, we have the abdomen area, which has some nice detail, as well as some silver and red, so it's not just entirely gray like this. Coming underneath that, he does have some skirt flaps to help with his articulation. We have these ones over here, which can move out to the side, as well as some front-facing skirt flaps. I haven't seen them like this on a Transformers figure before. This front skirt piece does look maybe a little bit awkward, but nothing too bad. Now further down, his legs do look really sick. I love all the little bits of detail on the inside part of the legs, and once again, you can see some tiny rivets over here throughout this armored-looking area. The silver and black over here look really cool. Further down the leg, it does have a bit of resemblance to the original G1 design, and it has some really great and fantastic sculpt work going on all throughout it, even all the way to the back. Surprisingly, this integrates really well into that custom blaster mode. And here's a quick look at the feet of the figure. This is for stepping on Starscream. We do have some of that text on there. Not my preferred place to put it. Now turning the figure over to the back, this back piece over here does have a bit of resemblance to the back of the previous Optimus Prime figures that have been released, and I really like how there's no hollow bits on this figure, which is a great thing because this thing is a bit expensive. We can also see his tank treads for the vehicle mode, and there's something kind of disappointing about these tank treads, which we will talk about once we get to that tank mode. Now let's move on to his other arms so we can talk about the fusion cannon. So this figure, it doesn't really come with any accessories, but it does come with this fusion cannon, and I don't really consider that to be an accessory for Megatron because it is kind of a really crucial component for him that does play a major role in his transformation, and even in that fan-made blaster mode. But anyways, it does look very nice. I do love the sculpt work on here. We can actually take it out, so we can get a better look at it, and there's no extra paintwork on here besides this piece of red. The fusion cannon can be folded like that, so you can place it back over here. You could also turn it this way to make it look a little less awkward, but honestly for Megatron, it's better for him to have it on his arm like how he should be.
Hell, why not give him 2 cannons?
So the head can move up and down, rotation. This arm can move out to the side. We do get a butterfly joint, which is really cool. We get a full 360 arm rotation. There is bicep rotation, and then there's rotation over here as well at the forearms. We do get an elbow bend that is on a single hinge. Hands can rotate. The fingers I already talked about. We get some waist rotation, which is great. If we move all these flaps out of the way, I don't know why this one is such a pain. There we go. We can bring this all the way forward, all the way back over there. We do get a knee bend, leg rotation. There's some foot movement at the bottom, as well as a pivot. This figure does have quite a bit of decent articulation, so you can get some really cool poses with him. And since this figure didn't really appear in the movie and didn't actually transform, that means 2 things. They can really take their time and effort into making the robot mode looking the best it can possibly be. And number 2, that means the alt modes are going to be the weakest things about this figure. This is an issue that was also with the Bumblebee Soundwave figure, and it is really strange to me that this figure has 2 different alt modes. Sam Smith himself stated that they wanted to prioritize the robot mode and have the alt modes utilize the designs that are already there. So that way the robot mode isn't compromised by any of the alt mode stuff. He even states how this has had some mixed success in the past. Since Megatron is a jet mode in the first movie and a tank in the second film, Sam Smith decided to make him a triple changer, and Emiliano Santalucia, I hope I said that right, helped come up with the looks for the alt modes. Afterwards, Yuya Onishi over at Takara then worked on bringing the figure to life. Now to transform Megatron, make sure his hands are in a fist like this, otherwise this part won't work. We need to open up this panel, bring in the fist, close that up, do the same over here, open that up, bring that in, close that up. We can extend his fusion cannon out. We can come to his head and rotate that all the way around. We want to come to the back, and these parts are a bit difficult to do. They're really stuck in there, but we need to pull these treads out. Jeez. About as much as I can get it. We're going to rotate this arm like this. Same with this one. Now let's grab these hip skirts and move them all out of the way. We're going to come to the legs and take this wing piece out and unfold that all the way. Pull this tread out. Now we can take this foot, bring it in there, take this part of the leg and bring it back. And we need to line it up to where this piece tabs into that slot over there. Bring that in there. Now we can take this wing piece, bring it down and fold that out.
We need to pull out the legs, which can be a bit stuck in there. Bring up this chest piece.
Take these arms and move them back a little bit so that way we can take out the rest of the back piece. Now we can grab this chest and abdomen area, bring it around. These panels on the side need to come out. We can take the legs and bring them around, what essentially becomes the front of the tank mode, and these do need to tab into there. Now we can take this section and then bring this down over there, and this does need to tab into place like that. Now we can bring in the arms kind of like that, rotating that in there. Connect the fusion cannon to this part of the arm now.
Rotate this around.
Here's a tank mode for Megatron. So the tank mode on this figure is it's something. It's not good.
From underneath we can clearly see his head.
Hello there.
Which, while it isn't appealing, you're not really going to be seeing it from underneath. And here's something fun. The treads don't actually have any wheels on them, so this figure is just a glorified brick. And just to add insult to injury, they even molded on faux wheel bits over here on both sides of the treads. Also, pulling these treads out for the robot mode, it's gotten loose. Pulling the treads out is a pain for the vehicle mode to where it's not really even worth doing. I feel like you would barely notice them if they were like pushed in.
I also feel like having to rotate the fusion cannon isn't super necessary.
It doesn't really make that much of a difference other than the scope being at the top now. Now this can rotate left and right and move up and down. The front of the tank is clearly Megatron's chest area, and you can clearly see the back of his head over here.
This wouldn't even fool a flat earther, and those guys are easy to fool.
I know he is meant to be a Cybertronian vehicle, but we have seen some better Cybertronian vehicles in the past before. Now the way his arms are done over here don't really look super appealing to me. Overall, a very just unimpressive tank mode. But the disappointment doesn't stop there, because now it's time for the jet mode, and the transformation for this is a bit complex. The first thing I like to do when transforming this figure is coming over to these treads and pushing them in,
Rotate this.
pull this apart, and just kind of move it out of the way for now. We can grab this section and pull this out, forming the front of the jet mode. Then what the instructions say is to bring the head over here and then rotate this around. I feel like that could cause some scratches on the head if you're not careful with rotating it. So what I prefer is to bring the head up and around over to the other side and then rotate it like that, and then bring it back down. Close these flaps up, grab the legs, bring it out, and rotate the legs around to where this gray side is now facing up. Do the same over here, rotate that around, collapse the fusion cannon like that, and rotate it around this way. Move the arms out to the side, just pull them out there. Now this part is a little awkward. Go ahead and bring this up, fold this kind of like that, and then fold it in forward, collapsing it on top like that. Bring these skirt flaps up, and make sure to bring these skirt flaps to the back over here. We can now close the legs back in, making sure they both click into place. So now this part of the legs is just really awkward. We're gonna pull this wing out, untab this from here, pull all this out. We're gonna rotate this tread around to where this jet bit is out. Make sure they're both rotated like this, and we're gonna grab these knee pieces and bring them out. Let's make sure to pull this out as well. Rotate the legs all the way around like this to where this gray side is now facing this part of the skirt. Do the same over here.
The thrusters should connect into this. Once you've done the other side, let's adjust these knee pieces. Now these two pieces connect. There's a tab here that's supposed to go underneath the leg.
And now these leg pieces need to attach to this skirt piece.
This can be a bit difficult to do. Bring the arms down and tab them in there. Same with this arm.
Yeah, I'm not able to get these fully tabbed in. I'm just gonna leave it like that. Adjust these wings, bring them out to the side.
And let's adjust these.
So this is the jet mode of the figure. I'm gonna be honest, it looks really bad. Also for me, the arms and those skirt pieces don't really stay tabbed in, and it's hard for me to get things to line up properly, but honestly, I don't really care enough to fix them because I don't really care about this jet mode at all. This feels like a gray mess, and the transformation was a bit complicated. It really feels like they just gave this figure a jet mode to make up for it being a leader class figure and that leader class price point, and for not having really any other extra accessories. We do have the front bit of the jet mode over here, the sort of cockpit area. It does have some nice red paint. A lot of the details we pretty much went over. We do get this extra thruster bit over here now, which is decent. I do kind of like how the back of the fusion cannon becomes sort of another thruster for the jet mode. I don't know if this aerodynamically makes sense. Overall, this doesn't really do it for me. Here is the blaster mode for the figure, and it doesn't look too bad, honestly. It almost feels like the designers themselves added this hidden mode in there. The way you grip it is honestly pretty comfortable and not awkward feeling. This back part over here rests right above your hand like it was meant to be there. This top skirt piece almost becomes like a sight, and this bottom piece becomes a trigger which you can press down on. I also like how the front of the jet mode becomes the trigger guard, and at the front we can see the Decepticon insignia there from the chest. The fusion cannon becomes the barrel, which does make sense. Now, is this actually a secret alt mode made by the designers? I don't think so. Fans have been giving different Megatron figures G1 style alt modes for a while now, and I think this is just another fan mode, but a really clever one. And I do think there's some bias involved because we're not really expecting an actual blaster mode for this figure, so whatever does come out of it, we are impressed by. Because when you really nitpick at it, things begin to fall apart. Like, these are obviously the feet. This front half from the top looks kind of weird, but you can't always get by it by saying it's a sci-fi gun. Now let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you want to see another Megatron video, I think you'll enjoy this one.
Also, a huge thank you to all my patrons on Patreon.